What's up, everyone? It's time to go over our list and answer the one and only question on every MMA fan's mind: Who is the goat? So we're gonna go and answer top 10 goats in the UFC, starting with number 10, and we're gonna go over both of our lists. I'm assuming we're gonna have pretty differing lists, so you'll get a little taste of both of our opinions, both of our takes, both of what we value. So for my list, starting at number 10, you know, to preface my criteria, I have four things in my criteria. One is the net total resume. So it's the quality of opponents with both of your best wins and losses. I'm taking account best wins and best losses. And I'm subtracting the best losses from a fighter's best wins. You'll see it later. Then second, I'll have quality of performance in the way of the wins and losses, and I value title performances a lot, more than just normal bouts. Then I'll go to title defenses, and then finally is UFC record. So for number 10 on my list, we have Kamaru Usman. He has two title wins against Covington, two against Masvidal, one against Burns and one against Woodley, with other notable wins being Leon Edwards in the first meetup, then against RDA and a welterweight Strickland. His quality win total is 8. No, it's 9 because of the losses of Edwards twice and then Khamzat Chimaev. What's really carrying him is his title defenses, which he has 5. 5 in 5 consecutive title defenses with the 15-3 UFC record. Great performances, absolute master classes against against Covington and Masvidal and Burns as well. And he's one of the most exciting fighters of the all time, one of the best welterweights of all time, the second best welterweight of all time, the second greatest of all time. So he's going to be in my number 10 spot.
Okay. I do agree that Usman is within the top 10. However, he's a little bit higher for me. Number 10 for me is going to be Max Blessed Holloway. I think that Max Holloway has cemented himself as an all-time great at this point in his career, potentially making another run at featherweight. I have a very similar criteria to Will. One main thing, though, that I think a lot of people will find, I guess, interesting, or that I should preface with, is that I don't really count, I guess, the significance of one's legacy as much as other people would. So don't expect a Conor McGregor or anything like that inside of my top 10. Instead, we're going to have the Blessed Express here at number 10. He has had 5 title fight wins, I believe. He's beaten Aldo twice at this point. Someone could argue that he's beaten Volkanovski. Obviously, that decision was very tight in their second fight. But overall, I think that Max Holloway has definitely earned himself that spot at number 10, being one of the greatest featherweights of all time.
All right, moving on to number 9. I got Jose Aldo in my 9 spot with his notable wins over Chad Mendes twice, the Korean Zombie, Uriah Faber, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, Kenny Florian, and then Lamas, but his losses really drag him down. You can't lose to Volk, Holloway twice, and McGregor while you're still in your prime. You're still in your prime years. You're still young. You're not old. You don't have the 35-year-old excuse like Alexander Volkanovski does to Islam and Ilya. You don't have those excuses. You're in the prime of your career. But he was very dominant in the WEC and in the early years of UFC, getting some dominant wins over great opponents. He does have 12 notable wins, with the title wins that I just mentioned, and then also over Cheeto, Cub Swanson in the WEC, and then his last fight against ranked opponent Jonathan Martinez, coming in 39 years old or 37 years old or something like that, crazy comeback and getting the win. So that does count as quality win. He has 12 quality wins to 6 quality losses, which gives him a net total at 6, which puts him in the 4th spot out of the 10 10 fighters. And seven title defenses consecutively. It's the longest in featherweight history. I just think Volkanovski is going to have a better resume and, just a better fighter overall.
So my number 9 spot is going to be going to Kamaru Usman. As Will had him at 10, I'm going to have him at 9. Personally, I'm someone who values the quality of what you actually do in the octagon. I think the record doesn't tell the whole story a lot of the time. Sometimes it does. Both Usman especially, I think he was one of those guys who just went in there and dominated every single time. His activity was super high. 6 title fight wins, all within the span of around 2 years. I think he's just an excellent performer. Obviously, he suffered that unfortunate loss to Edwards, and even had that tight decision loss to both Edwards and Hamzat recently. But I do think that he has edged himself out as number 9 in my book, especially for how great of a division, in my opinion, late 2010s, early 2020s welterweight was, and how he was able to stay on top of it for such a long time in terms of fight numbers.
Yeah, it's valid. It's number 8. My number 8. Finally gonna have to get him. I wish this fighter was a little bit higher. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Cleveland guy, Stipe Miocic. He does have, he had 4 total title defenses, with 3 being consecutive, which is the most in heavyweight history. He's by far the heavyweight GOAT. 14-4 UFC record, with wins over DC twice, Francis Ngannou for the belt, or in one of the defenses. That Overeem fight was insane, and then he revenged his loss over very tough, very competitive heavyweight legend in Junior Dos Santos. However, he does have losses against DC and an older and more developed Francis Ngannou, and then also Stefan Struve in the early years of his career. But outside of those title wins, he got very notable wins against Andrei Orlovsky and even Mark Hunt. You can consider him as a very quality opponent. So that puts him at a net total of 7 quality wins, 4 quality losses, so a net total of 3, with 4 finishes in those title fights. Only losing in the title fight by knockout by Francis Ngannou outside of the DC fight. So yeah, Stipe is going to be my 8 spot.
See, I think that might be the difference maker, because Stipe is absent on my top 10. So
that's crazy. Max Holloway's absent on. He's very close. He's very close to 11.
Holloway versus Stipe, and we're going Stipe.
Oh, 1,000% we're going Stipe.
Oh, come on, man.
DC twice? Come on, DC's gonna be top 5. DC's top 5. He beat him twice.
40. He was 40 though.
He joined the UFC when he was 36, 37, 38. He joined the UFC when he was an old man, dude.
Here's the thing. Okay.
It's heavyweight too. Stipe is about to win the belt. Hold on. Stipe is about to win the belt at 42, 43.
Okay. He's not about to win the belt. And Stipe's resume is right. He's probably top 15, but it's not.
You froze. You froze.
Stipe has a good resume. Right.
Yeah.
It is not great. That's all. It's just that simple.
DC twice, bro.
Yeah. He has a couple great wins.
Junior Dos Santos.
That Ngannou was undeveloped, though. That's the thing.
Okay. It was still for the belt, dude. He was a championship contender.
I really do. Stipe definitely is top 15 for sure. But in terms of top 10 conversation, nah. Over Usman? Nah, he's not over Usman.
Yes, he is, dude. Greatest heavyweight of all time, bro. Talk about resume. Usman's resume, dude. Usman's resume.
Better than Stipe. He's better resume than Stipe.
Okay, yeah, that is true. I did put him in the net total.
So
Amen.
My number 8 spot is gonna be going to Jose Aldo.
Okay. No, I thought you were gonna put him in top 5.
No. I think people tend to overrate Jose Aldo a lot, but at the same time, he is an all-time great for sure. He's had 2 runs with the belt. One was way shorter. He only had 1 title fight win, and then instantly dropped it. Obviously, his first one got ended by McGregor, And depending on how much you want to count WEC stuff within GOAT stuff, considering the UFC just kind of assimilated it and just bought the featherweight division, then you can kind of count a little bit of that there too. But I do think that Aldo, especially during his prime, was just an absolute monster for sure. At the same time, though, quality of competition at the time during his prime, which you will see with my rankings later, quality of competition wasn't necessarily as high, and it wasn't as developed. But he still is an all-time great, and that's why I'm going to have him at number 8.
All right, moving on to number 7. I thought this fighter was going to be a lot higher on the list. To be honest, I understand if you do put him higher, but I'm going to have Alexander Volkanovski at the 7th spot. Title wins over Holloway 3 times, and Brian Ortega, Korean Zombie, and absolute masterclass, perfect game. Most recently against Yair Rodriguez, with his only losses in UFC being Islam twice and to Ilia Topuria, who seems going to be sticking around for quite a long time, while also beating Jose Aldo when he was still very capable, and Chad Mendes earlier in Volk's career. So, I really wish I could put him over the guys that I'm about to list, but I just can't. He's just it's not discrediting Volkanovski. It's really crediting the guys above Volk, because he's got 5 title defenses, all consecutive. Again, didn't lose until he was 35. Like it's crazy. It's crazy, but I got to put him at 7 just because of his competition.
I couldn't have said it better myself, because I also have Volkanovski at the 7th slot. I think that the consensus is that Volkanovski, or not consensus necessarily, but in my opinion, I think Volkanovski is not, he isn't on that level to where you can compare him to the 6 guys ahead of him. Those 6 guys, the top 6 all time, are on a different level simply. Whereas I think that Volkanovski is just beneath them. He has put together an insane resume at featherweight. Obviously, he's had questionable wins, but still, even then, great champion overall, pretty active. And yeah, I think he made the most of his career for sure. Obviously, it's sad to see his age really affect him now, and irresponsible making from his team, like taking that Islam fight, affecting his career as well. But I do think that regardless of his back-to-back KO losses, still an all-time great, and he's definitely 7 slot for sure, solidified in my opinion.
Yeah. Moving on to the number 6 spot, you gassed at me. You gassed at me a lot. Okay, I think you know where I'm coming from. Okay, you gassed at me thinking one of the top 5 fighters was a Bill Russell of the UFC. However, after final conclusion, I have come to my conclusion very accurately that the true Bill Russell of the UFC is Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. He has 11 consecutive title defenses, most in UFC history. Will never be touched, ever. Never be touched. Mm-hmm. With that win over Triple C. And that's it, dude. That's it. That Triple C win is the only high quality win. Now, I'm not saying high quality performance. I'm just saying against an opponent. He's the only high quality opponent. Yes, you can throw in Joseph Benavidez. Yes, you can throw in John Dodson. But when I look at those guys, yeah, Benavidez did go on a little title run in like 2018, 2019, but he got thrashed by Figgy. And then, John Dodson, he's cool. Never champion. Didn't make it back. Never high contender. You got one guy, and it's Triple C, and that's it. And then you went to a split decision, and then you lost to him. You lost to Triple C in your last fight in the UFC. Like, I have to put him this far because of the 7 finishes in his 17 fights, because of the 11 consecutive, title defenses in UFC history, because of the 15-2 record. But I can't put him higher. I can't.
Man. I disagree with a lot that was just said right there. And I'm going to make my case for why Mighty Mouse is a little bit higher than number 6. But I do think that there's a common narrative between both Will and I's number 6 picks, and it's that they have a very deep resume, as in there's lots of volume to both resumes. But when you look at the actual opponents and individually take each by each, I guess, sample size, it looks a lot weaker by comparison. Keep in mind, all 6 of these guys, I think, if someone called them the GOAT, you can't really get mad at it. But my number 6 spot is going to be the Spider, Anderson Silva. I think that his unbeaten streak is something that is insane. 16 straight. The fact that he was able to bounce between divisions, go up to light heavyweight just for fun, and then come back down and continue to defend middleweight gold. Something that is again, that's just insane, untouchable. And I think that even if you look past the 11 losses, right? Not all 11. Obviously, he did get clipped by Weidman. But if you were to look past a lot of his shortcomings, I think that the actual guys that he's beaten, the resume that he's put together, just isn't it. He has a lot of volume to it. Obviously, very dominant champion for his time. But I do think that skill sets have evolved a lot since Anderson Silva's time, and 2, I do get the quality overall of just opponents, and especially of the middleweight division. It's just not been the strongest. Especially older middleweight division. We still see today that the middleweight division is a little bit weaker. Anderson Silva, to no fault of his own, was fighting in that very division, and he looked spectacular, but I do not think that he has cracked the top 5, in my opinion.
All right, so that's a great transition to my number 5, which is going to be Anderson the Spider Silva. Let me tell you, Silva has 8 high quality wins. He does.
Oh,
he has 8. He has 8 high quality wins. Okay.
Oh Lord.
You do not understand how good Dan Henderson is.
You
do not. Dan Henderson twice.
No, name it.
Dan Henderson twice.
Oh, okay.
Rich Franklin twice.
Okay. All 8.
Rich Franklin twice. Chael Sonnen twice.
Wait. Whoa.
Rich Franklin, dude. Rich Franklin.
Okay. No. Keep it going. We're at 6.
Okay. Chael Sonnen
We're at 6.
Damian Maia, Vitor Belfort.
Yep, that's 6.
That's 8.
Whoa. Okay.
Damian Maia, Vitor Belfort, bro. And Anderson Silva.
Vitor Belfort's a quality win.
And yeah, so is all the 7 other fights I just said.
Viewers, remember that he says Vitor Belfort is a quality win for later. Okay.
As a middleweight. He's a great middleweight. He's a great middleweight. Just like Lyoto Machida is a great middleweight. It's a spectacular middleweight. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. 14.
Wow. Yeah.
14 of his 17 wins were finishes. By the way, 14 of his 17 wins were finishes. Mm-hmm. Dominant, greatness. Mm-hmm. Okay. 10 consecutive title defenses, most in middleweight history. 16 fight win streak, most in UFC history. He was fighting light heavyweight contenders and not even going to the belt because double champ wasn't a thing. He would be triple champ if Conor McGregor was in 2012. I'm just saying. Hold on. He has a 17 and 7
Wait,
record.
Triple champ.
Yeah, he would be. Heavyweight 2012? Come on.
Bro. He would have to find a way to cut to welterweight because there's no way he's beating.
Yeah, he probably could. He probably could have.
Yeah. Okay.
17 and 7 as a record. Hear me out. 5 losses from 2016 to 2020. 1 in 5 in 4-year span. If he just retires after the Weidman fights, whereas his leg was already not working, if he had enough money to just retire, if Dana was doing his job, he's retiring. He's undisputed GOAT. I'm sorry. He is. He's undisputed GOAT. All right, moving on to number 4.
Wait, over the consensus number 1.
Correct, dude. Okay. No, he's not 1. He's not one. He's definitely 3 though. He's definitely 3. 1000% he's 3. Dude, Rich Franklin
Okay.
is
Nope.
is a number 4
We'll keep
contender.
it going.
He beat Kevin.
We'll
He
keep it
beat Kelvin.
going. We'll
He
keep
beat
it
Kelvin
going.
Gastelum twice when Kelvin Gastelum was actually good. Before Israel
We'll keep it.
Adesanya got to pick at him.
We'll
You
keep
know.
it. We'll keep it going. No.
Number
I
4.
can respect the nostalgia trip that we're going on. No. My number
Number 4.
5. Hold up.
Oh, my.
Hold up.
Yeah, you're
Let me
right.
get
My
my
bad.
number 5 in real quick. Number 5 is going to be Daniel DC Cormier. I think that this man is constantly disrespected over and over again. I think he is greater than Anderson Silva, and you're crazy if you think otherwise. This dude, obviously, he achieved double champ. He's only lost to Jones and Stipe. Of course, he's beaten Stipe though. So again, the only person he's faced and hasn't walked out of the octagon with a W before has been John Jones. And you'll see why that is something that I don't really count against him. And overall, I think that DC's dominance and individual performances, if you just watch him actually perform in the octagon, he's throwing around heavyweights and light heavyweights like they're nothing. I think that his skill sets, he's a very complete fighter. And overall, definitely just an all-time great who's only held down because of circumstances, in my opinion. So, yeah, number 5, DC.
All right, I'm actually quite confused on your top 4 now. Hold on. I'm missing someone in my head. I'm missing someone into my head. So because my number 4 is DC.
Okay.
Is Daniel DC Cormier. For all the reasons that you just said, and for all the reasons that you just said that he is greater than Anderson Silva. Double champ status really cements that. If it wasn't for John Jones, like, come on, in that net total of quality wins, he has 7. From 10 quality wins to 3 quality losses, and that does put him at the 3 spot. So he's done everything that you could do and you can do. He's had wins over Stipe, Ozdemir, Lewis, Rumble. Goes down the line. So, Isaiah?
So you got DC at 4.
I got DC at 4. Yeah.
My number 4 is going to be Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson.
Nice.
Now, I can understand why people would say that DC is greater than Mighty Mouse. I don't understand how anyone could say that Anderson Silva is greater than Mighty Mouse. But I think that Mighty Mouse's skill sets and ability, I think you would if you took every feather or flyweight, in their prime and put them in a division right now, he would be at the top for sure. And I think that a lot of the time his competition gets reduced because of how dominant he was. He was making these guys look easy. I think flyweight would have been a lot more of a more competitive division if Mighty Mouse wasn't so damn good. I mean, Dana White threatened to delete the division because Mighty Mouse was that good. That's why that loss to Cejudo is questionable in the first place, is because the commission did not want Mighty Mouse to have that gold around his waist at the end of the day. And I think that people gas up Cejudo because he's the only one to beat Mighty Mouse, really, realistically. It's the same way how people look down on Gon just for losing to Jones. Whereas if Gon were to won, they would look down on Jones. It's a common thing with UFC fans where we prop up only the winner and then reduce the losers so much. So I'm not going to reduce Mighty Mouse's competition. I think that he is great. I think he is obviously the greatest flyweight of all time. And even then, even if you're just looking at more wider MMA context, went to one championship. He did his thing over there, and he's still great to this day.
All right, time for number 3. See, this is where it gets a little controversial. Okay, I'm first gonna start with an apology. Okay, I'm gonna start with an apology to co-host Robbie Abood. I'm going to start with an apology to Robbie. I'm going to start apology to my entire lifestyle and my continued glaze in support of this man. But I can't put him any higher than number 3. And that is Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov. Okay. I want to put Khabib at number 1 more than anything, just period. I want to put him at number 1. He's a much better champion than the 2 guys in front of him. He's a much better person than the two guys in front of him, you know. But I have to put Khabib at number 3. 13-0 UFC record, 3 for 3 title finishes in title fights. Win over Prime McGregor, Prime Gaethje, Prime Poirier, and also wins that get very, very overlooked into RDA, Edson Barboza, and T-Bow. 6 net total because he has 6 quality wins and no losses. Only lost 2 rounds in his UFC career. That's insane. Lost 2 rounds in his UFC career by this from the scorecards. He didn't even give them a chance to rob him in title fights against Conor McGregor because he finished him. He finished Gaethje. He finished Poirier. He is so dominant. He's the most dominant that we've ever seen. He's definitely pound for pound number 1 that we've ever seen. But he sadly just doesn't have enough to compete with the next 2 guys. And that is very unfortunate.
So I actually do agree with Khabib at the 3 spot. I've done a lot of thinking about this. And I do think that in combat sports, especially, being kind of unanimously most dominant should be valued especially high in combat sports. I mean, this dude, Khabib, has never been knocked down before. He has never bled before in MMA, which is, again, insane. Sure, he might not be as well-rounded as your casual viewer.
And look at his face.
As your casual viewer may like, but at the end of the day, I think that Khabib, for his level of dominance, and really the only thing you can hold against him is that early retirement that he had. I think that if he was to keep going, this list could look a lot different. But in the amount that he showed us, Khabib is one of the greatest of all time. He is number 3. He's not better than the next 2. But yeah, and overall, I am a guy who title fights, in my opinion, should be valued because of the level of competition, not because of the belt being there. And Khabib ran through the lightweight division, whether there was belts on the line or not. So just looking at his number of title defenses alone, it's kind of cherry picked in my opinion. So I think that he's number 3 for sure, all time.
All right, number 2, another ranking that is really going to hurt me, that goes against everything that I stand for, that goes against everything that I wish to be true, everything that I cope with every single day. But number 2 is going to be George Rush St. Pierre. He's great. He's awesome. Dominant. Wins over Matt Hughes twice, BJ Penn twice, Nick Diaz, Carlos Condit, Bisping, 2017, 4 years later. Johnny Hendricks, probably one of the greatest fights of all time. And he did get his revenge against Matt Serra. But he did lose to tough champion in his first title appearance. I think it was, his opponent's first fight in actual UFC. You just can't have that on your resume. You can't have that. You can't have Matt Hughes loss. You can't have Matt Serra loss. You just can't. If you want to compete with this guy, who I have at number 1. So, he's number 2 pound for pound all time, in my opinion, just next to Khabib and right above Mighty Mouse. But, in terms of greatness, he's number 2.
So, also, for the record, pound for pound, number 1 all time is also
no, it's not. It's not close.
On my
list.
Not
close. He's
the number 1 spot on both lists is held by the same man.
No, we'll have that later. That discussion later.
My number 2 though is the same man, George Rush St. Pierre. Similar to what Will said, I think that his 2 losses held him back a little bit, but overall, in my opinion, I think that the gap between number 1 and 2 all time is made to seem smaller than it actually is, if anything. And while GSP is great, I don't think that he did enough to even be considered 1B necessarily. I think that he obviously was a great champion. At the same time, though, a lot of his fights happen in a less developed sport of MMA. That's one thing I would say. Welterweight, however, was a competitive division, so I'll give him credit there. To where, while maybe less developed, he'd still be insane in welterweight to this day if you take a prime GSP. GSP also in terms of finishing ability, a little bit of a decision merchant after getting knocked out by Sarah. He became way more conservative, making sure that he never choked a fight like that again, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, most controlled time in UFC history, so nothing to laugh at there. He's had great wins, and the big thing, the commonality between both him and number one is that sustained dominance to where he went for years on ends. Essentially a straight decade of being great, which then earns him that spot. But I do want to emphasize that the gap between number one and number two is a lot bigger than people make it seem. And I think that number one's a lot higher than people give it credit for. So, yeah.
All right. With that, we're moving on to number one. You know him. You hate him. It's the biggest, most controversial person in UFC history. Most steroid positive tests, most PED positive tests in UFC history. John Bones Jones, Mr. Eye Poke, Mr. PED, Mr. Scandal, Mr. Abuse, everything, all those horrendous traits, unfortunately, do apply to the GOAT of UFC. Not much I need to say. Undefeated, 2-division champion. If it wasn't for that no contest, he probably would have had like 18 title defenses in a row. Yeah, that's all I needed. Yeah, that's it.
I think that John Jones at this point is kind of unanimous in that spot. Even if he gets somehow flatlines this year, somehow, right? It doesn't matter. I think that he has done enough to where he is kind of undisputed at this point, to where the volume in the resume to what he has done is almost insane to even think that it could ever be repeated. Youngest UFC champion in history. And keep in mind, the guys that he was facing at that young age of 23 were great, right? Shogun and Rampage within the same year. He fought 4 fights in 1 year and made him look easy. Finished Rampage for the first time in Rampage's career. Now, a lot of times people will say that he beat quote-unquote middleweights.
Correct.
I would disagree with that fact. Overall. And even if you take away those smaller guys, Gustafsson twice finishing him. Glover Teixeira put the first loss on Glover's record. Put the first loss on DC's record. Came back to beat DC again. Came back to beat Gustafsson again. And then had 4 title fight wins later in his career with Smith, Santos, Reyes, and Gane. Again, even if you want to count that Reyes win as a loss, still, I think that the volume of the sustained dominance for over a decade now at this point has definitely earned him that slot. I think that he is the pound-for-pound greatest fighter on the planet. Not right now, but all time. If you want to look at people's peaks, a prime John Jones is probably the greatest fighter we've ever seen. MMA is a constantly evolving sport, so I'm assuming that will not be the case sooner rather than later. But for right now, what John Jones did was simply insane. Last thing, in terms of the steroid use, I think that I don't really hold that against him as much as others might, because I think that in the early days of the UFC, juicing was a lot more common. And he did eventually hop off of it after that second DC win. Also, depending on if you weigh steroid usage against Jones, you'd have to weigh it against Silva. Yeah. If you disqualify people because of steroids, I think GSP's number one and then Khabib's number two. But if we're just saying all around this, John Jones is your greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah, see, I really did want to have John Jones completely off the list, and say no PED test, positive PED tests people who had those would be on this list. But then Silva goes down, then a few other people I believe also go down, and then a few people who are currently on pace to be in the top 10, top 15 will also go down because of a single PED test. So I can't really hold that against him in this specific debate, but I do hold it against him as a person, but that's not what we're talking about. So before we wrap things up, do you have any, like, who's your 11th spot? If you have a few other names you want to shout out, you should put that in there. And then also one fighter who's currently very active and like in their prime, entering their prime, who you think is going to be in this top 10, top 5 debate soon.
Well, 11, I got to put Stipe Miocic. My honorable mentions, I'm going to give 2 shout-outs. 1 to Dominic Cruz for being bantamweight GOAT, and 2 for Israel Adesanya for holding it down for the middleweights.
Izzy's
and I
crazy.
think that
Izzy's a wild shout.
He's definitely top 15. And I think that that's pretty solidified at this point. Super active fighter. And good person for Anderson Silva to pass that middleweight striker torch to, in my opinion. In terms of who's up and coming, in terms of like who's actually going to reach top all-time lists, I think Islam and potentially Alex Pereira will both be in these all-time talks. Pereira, because of his abilities to move between divisions, I think that will benefit him in terms of capturing gold in multiple places. It already has. He's already 2 division. And he potentially could be 3 division, which could change things a lot in this list. And Islam, because of the same reasons that Khabib, except he's not retiring early. He's going to finish out his career, which is going to kind of paint us a picture of what that would have looked like, which could be number 1 all time. Yeah, a lot of people look towards Ilya or Leon. I think Ilya, though, we have to wait and see. And with Leon, I'm sorry, he just decisions too much, and I just hate him. He cheats a lot. That might be personal bias, but I don't think that his 10-year win streak really means that much in my eyes. But yeah.
Yeah, Leon's losing that belt come July anyway.
I don't know about that.
No, but the 2 honorable mentions that I want to shout out is actually the 2 people that you have in like the up and coming category, because I think they are already top 15 fighters in Alex Pereira and Islam. I think it's pretty clear that they're both already top 15. I mean, Alex Pereira is a 2 division champion, one of only like 5 people in UFC history. Islam's resume is already better than some of the guys we've already said, or not better than, obviously, because he would be on the but he's of the same quality. Most definitely better than Dominic Cruz. Islam's legacy is definitely better than Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, I can hear. I can hear it. Islam. Not Pereira, not yet.
Also, and then an up and comer. This is very early. He doesn't even have the belt yet. Hasn't even been given the shot yet. But I think Shavkat or Hamzat is going to end up on this top 10 list very soon.
Really?
Yeah, I think that Shavkat is going to beat Bilal for the belt after he fights JDM, and then nobody in the welterweight division can.
You mean beat Leon for the belt, right?
No, you. I didn't stutter, buddy. I didn't stutter.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So Shavkat, like, no welterweight is even close to his caliber and his skill set. And yeah, Leon, I just watched all of his fights with Usman. His takedown defense is insane. But I think Shavkat's a lot more than even Usman is as both a striker and a wrestler. I don't know. Maybe that's a little predictive or something. And like Shavkat hasn't really been tested yet. But that's just who I think is going to end up on this list. So
last shout out also. Obviously, this is a men's list, but if this was a unified both genders list, Amanda Nunes would be top 3. Okay, fight me. And yeah, she is great. So I just want to shout her out as well. No, it's not crazy at all. Defending double champion, undisputed GOAT of women's MMA, complete fighter. Ran through Rousey, ran through Cyborg. I can go down the list, but yeah.
Killed Rousey's career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
There we
40
go.
minutes in. We're gonna leave it at that. Thanks for tuning